On today's show, which Team USA FIBA member has the most to gain through the summer and then into the season next year? Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Brandon Ingram. We'll talk about all that and some Steph stuff on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Be an everyday or subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know which Team USA member, part of the FIBA squad, has the most to gain this offseason and then into next season as well. And joining me, as always, host of Locked On Bulls. What you got for me, Pat the Designer?
We're still waiting on Dame Lillard trades because of Jaime Jaquez.
Who got dropped today at a Miami Pro-Am.
That's what we're waiting on. Jaime Jaquez.
That's what we're waiting on. So, yeah, waiting on Lillard stuff. NBA offseason continues on. We're 5 days a week here on Locked On NBA. I host Locked On Mavericks. We're continuing to be 5 days a week. And Locked On Bulls, Pat and Hayes got you covered for Bulls offseason stuff over there. But let's get into our first topic today. Which FIBA Team USA member has the most to gain in the summer? And let's talk about next season as well, like going into next season, because this is the roster we got right now. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Haliburton, Brandon Ingram, Cam Johnson, Austin Reaves, Jaren Jackson Jr., Paolo Banchero, Bobby Portis, Walker Kessler, and Josh Hart. Of those players, who do you think has the most to gain this offseason and then going into next year?
I think that the easy answer is Anthony Edwards. For me, when I look at a guy like Ant down in Minnesota, we know what his potential should be and what we all feel it is. We saw him kind of get stagnant this year, and the NBA is in a holding pattern right now. We don't know who the next face of the league is. Is it going to be Luka? Are they going to market Luka as the next face of the league? Is it going to be Jokic? Are they going to market Jokic as the next face of the league?
Who'd you say before then?
I said, is it going to be Luka?
I had to.
Is it going to be Jokic? Jokic, I think the NBA wants to make Jokic the face of the NBA, but Jokic doesn't want to be the face of the NBA because you can't get back to the horses when you're the face of the NBA. So, well, Michael Jordan found his way over there. But anyway, I think that I think that this is an opportunity for the NBA to kind of find their next young star based on who takes the lead on this team. If you have a guy that stands head and shoulders above everybody else, listen, at the end of the day, right, I still feel like the basketball, while it's catching up with the rest of the world, America still usually puts out the team that ends up coming out on top just because they have the most collective talent at once. I think the name that comes out on top of this as the leader of this team could be that next name that we look at as a face of the NBA type of name coming back off of that season. We've heard how Team USA affects people when they come back. DeMar DeRozan had one of his best seasons to start off. Zach LaVine did the same thing coming back off of his Team USA stuff. So I think this is an opportunity for your next face of the league to be made here. And we'll kind of see what it is, because it's not like you're sitting here looking at a team of guys that like Anthony Edwards shouldn't be the best player on this team with.
I mean, we got 2 All-Stars. Brandon Ingram made one. Jaren Jackson Jr. made one. That's it, right?
Has Mikal Bridges made an All-Star game?
No.
I feel like he's got one of those obscure ones.
No, Ingram's got the obscure one. Anthony Edwards did make the All-Star team last year. So, I mean, we got three All-Stars. That's it on this team. So we're not looking at the best of the best. To me, and I don't think they need the best of the best in FIBA, like in this. No. In the Olympics, you bring, I mean, Kevin Durant went there. You had Booker. You had Tatum, some of these guys. But for FIBA and for these World Cups and things like that in the years between, this is when Team USA works to build up the next level. Who's the next guys to get up? And I'm totally with you. I had Anthony Edwards as my second guy who has the most to gain, because he's got a team in Minnesota where he's got to navigate some weird stuff. We heard the quote from him last year where I can't just dunk over everybody because he's got Rudy Gobert, he's got Karl-Anthony Towns, he's got just some big guys. Not a lot of teams play with two bigs like that. And so he's got to navigate that. He's also got to navigate egos in that too, where Rudy Gobert is a $40 million player. Karl-Anthony Towns, $40 million player, number one pick that thinks he's the best shooting big man of all time. He's not. That big man is going into the Hall of Fame this weekend, but he's not. He's got to navigate that. And for him to rise up and become the alpha of this Team USA team, I think can be really good for him confidence-wise and just putting the league on notice-wise going into next season. So I'm really into Anthony Edwards. And like you said, there is kind of this vacuum of maybe not the face of the NBA, but the face of the next great like American player. You got LeBron, KD, Harden kind of on their way, Lillard on their way out, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie, getting into their next phase of their career at this point. The next players after that, it's Anthony Davis, it's Jason Tatum. I mean, it's up there. It's up for grabs for somebody else to be the next player.
It's John Morant, realistically.
For sure, yeah. John Morant deserves to be in that group too. But for the next best like American-born player, and it's there for them to take. And so Anthony Edwards has a chance in the next couple of years, and this could be the launching point of his campaign of I'm the next guy.
Don't be surprised if we see a sneaky one too, right? Like my expectation is that Ant, as the vet on this team, takes the lead. But to me, the absolute guy that could show himself as the best player on this team is Paolo Banchero.
Paolo
Banchero
give me the case for Paolo.
Paolo Banchero has a skill set that I think on this team, when you look at the rest of the guys, 6'10", 250 pounds, he's not just height without the weight. He's got probably one of the better handles on this team. He's got a better handle to me than BI. He's probably on par with the back to the basket game. The young fella could absolutely come in. Now, it's about kind of how they're building the hierarchy with this, right? When it was Mike Krzyzewski, a young player would never be able to come in there and take over because he was going to let the veterans operate. I don't know how the hierarchy of all this is going to work, but if Paolo gets an opportunity to shine, I absolutely think that he could prove himself as one of the best players, if not the best player on this team. I think Anthony Edwards has the talent and the veteran leadership, or should have the veteran leadership at this point. 3 seasons, or was he 4 seasons in now? I don't even know what
Ant's 3 seasons. He's
3 seasons in. It feels like he should be the guy that comes up and leads this crew, but don't be surprised if a young guy in Paolo comes out and just shows you, 1, I'm the most talented player on the floor, and 2, I'm already leading a crap show down in Orlando. Like this isn't that hard. Like
Team Germany's Franz Wagner takes offense to that.
It is what it is. They were terrible. Like at least you guys know how to also play basketball. You know?
I'm glad you brought up Paolo. I was going to bring him up as one of my later ones, but Locked On Magic, Philip Rossman-Reich brought up a really good point. They used Paolo as the 5 in their first, like Team USA's first scrimmage against Puerto Rico. And I'm curious if that's something that they can do a little bit more. And Philip was asking if the Magic should do that a little bit more. They played him like 200 possessions out of his like thousands that he played last year. So it wasn't very often, but I'm curious if that's an angle they go to, because it happened because Jaren Jackson Jr. is dealing with foul trouble. Your other bigs are Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis.
Shocked, I say. Jaren Jackson's in foul trouble? You hush your mouth.
The slander just oozes. It oozes.
The slander for a guy that averages 4.5 fouls a game? Like, it's not slander. I'm just.
What's his per 36 on foul?
There's only 5 to go around, Nick.
Yeah, you only get 5 in FIBA too. But with Paolo Banchero, using him at the 5, is that something else that can elevate his game, show something else, and maybe that's something that you can use in the NBA later. And I think that's something he can gain in the NBA by, if he takes that Magic team. They were above 500 after the All-Star break, or after December, certain point. And so that was a team I said could be on the rise next year. And maybe he takes this momentum into next year and is ready to go. Coming up, I've got the one player though. I'm surprised you didn't mention the one player that can gain the most. And I don't just mean on the court. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel has you covered for everything in the NFL. Pat, you've been at Bears camp for a while. You feeling Bears for the Super Bowl?
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a lot harder for the Bengals to get there without a quarterback. But no, I'm not
his
feeling
calf
Bears.
is fine. Burrow's calf is fine.
Boom.
Take my calf.
I'm not feeling Bears for the Super Bowl just yet. I feel like there might be in the hunt playoff berth.
Even if they don't win the Super Bowl and you bet on the Bears, you can win at FanDuel, because right now you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. So all 5 of the Bears regular season wins, you can get bonus bets on to use on spreads, player props, over-unders, all that kind of stuff. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl. You'll get bonus bets for every victory. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA, being part of this show, being an everydayer. Appreciate everyone for watching. Again, we have a Locked On show that covers your team every day. I host Locked On Mavs. Pat hosts Locked On Bulls. We've got a show. Click the link in the description and find it for yourself. All right, Pat, we're talking about which FIBA Team USA players have the most to gain this summer and then going into next season. We mentioned Anthony Edwards. Love that one. He was my number 2. Mentioned Paolo Banchero. Love that one. Kind of threw that one in. The number 1 player who has the most to gain to me, and it pains me to say this, it's Jalen Brunson.
Now, you said on and off the court. We're not talking about
Zion Williams and porn.
No.
That's not what we're talking about.
He's
right?
spoken for. He's got a long-term relationship. I think he may have been married at this point. Somebody got married.
Oh, sweet. Shout out to him.
Jalen Brunson's got the most to gain, because right now he's leading the select team. I mean, Steve Kerr's coming out saying he's the leader on this team, which he's just a natural guy that comes into any opportunity that he has and leads where he is. He's starting for them. He's the guaranteed point guard, even over Haliburton, over some of these other guys. The thing that he's got the most to gain, though, the Knicks have some assets. The Knicks are in a position where they can go out and get somebody else. And you know what happens at these Team USA events? You know what happens at Olympics? You know what happened at the Olympics when LeBron, Wade, and Bosh became friends? You know what happens in Olympics when Kyrie and KD become friends? Like, we've seen this over and over and over again. These guys from Team USA end up teaming up at some point. So does Mikal Bridges, does a Jaren Jackson, a Paolo Banchero, a Anthony Edwards in Minnesota? I mean, can he convince one of these guys to come join him and to join him in New York City?
Yeah.
For the Knicks? I know you're a Chicago guy, but you got to admit, Brunson being able to lure one of those guys, and you know that the Knicks are down for tampering. I mean, we've seen it all from them. Sure. They'll hire your dad, they'll hire your sister, your brother, they'll hire anybody to bring the guy that they want over and get fined for it.
Zion Williams and porn stars.
They won't do that, but we've seen that they're willing to go the extra mile. So I think he's got the most to gain because of the connections he's going to make.
Who makes that Knicks team exponentially better?
Anthony Edwards.
I feel like I don't know. I don't think Ant's a team up guy. Like, you think about it, right? Like, Ant was like, I'm going to just go out there and win with the team I got. And they didn't. And he was just like, okay, I'm going to just go back out here and keep trying to win.
We've said this.
They just added Rudy Gobert to him.
Damian Lillard has legitimately said this out loud, and now he's going to become a team-up guy. Anybody can become one at any given point.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, when Ant gets 32, if he goes the team up with Jalen Brunson,
everything's getting faster.
In what is that? In 10 years, if in 10 years he goes and teams up with Jalen Brunson, I will allow you to be right at that point when Brunson's 36 years old.
Anthony Edwards just signed his extension, right? Like, he signed his extension in July. And so after this year, he's got the connection with Jalen Brunson, and then they do their trade.
I'm not saying that he's not a
demands a trade. Send me to the Knicks and nowhere else.
I think that's the part that I don't think he is. I really do think that he wants to beat you with whatever squad he has. Because think about who Ant is. Ant thinks he's the best at literally everything. Like, he really believes, like, no, I could go get you.
But wouldn't that mentality also take him to MSG and be like, I'm gonna own New York? Yeah,
because MSG has always put out the best talent that we've seen in the NBA.
But wouldn't he look at that and be like,
yes, because that's the history that MSG holds. Behold, I give you Patrick Ewing.
This is where your Chicago-ness comes out.
A top 15 center in all of history.
All right, Bear.
Yeah. My bad. Sorry.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you should go back and watch Pat's face and look to camera when he said that. But I'm just saying, though, it doesn't have to be Anthony Edwards. It could be, one of these other guys, Mikal Bridges, or somebody, just a connection.
Yeah, another name, though. Like, I'm not saying that he can't make a connection. A Brandon Ingram there, to me, changes things.
Sure.
Josh Hart's already on his team.
Mikal Bridges.
I don't know how that dynamic would work. Maybe you can get in the ear of one of the young guys. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. Listen, a pick and roll. I'm so high on this young man. I just enjoy watching him play basketball. I wanted the Bulls to draft him out of college because I thought that, and we took Dalen Terry. I thought that he was literally. I was like, he's white Jaren Jackson. I love Walker Kessler. So if you could convince anybody with better, he doesn't get in as much foul trouble. If you could convince anybody to come over and be a big part of what you're trying to build for a future, it's going to be some years, but Walker Kessler would be the guy that I would think you would look at. Outside of that, like, I don't see anybody else leaving.
He's also in camp with some guys too. I mean, they come to camp and they bring a bunch of guys into camp too. So it's just the connection with teammates. Also, this could be a long-term play for Brunson where he really impresses, and all of a sudden he's on the Olympic team. We've seen guys slip into the Olympic team and go, wait, how did that guy make the Olympic team? And if Brunson's on the Olympic team because he impressed Steve Kerr at that point, then all of a sudden you're talking about the real connections. Then you're talking about the Tatums, the Bookers, the whoever, KD, whoever else is part of that.
Those guys will leave, yeah. It's a long play game. We know all those guys will leave. You know what I mean? Like,
anyone else stand out to you? Somebody that has stuff to gain?
For me,
you try not to say Austin Reaves, huh?
Austin Reaves. First off, the thing for me that he has to gain is just soaking up the knowledge. And Austin Reaves is one of those guys, like old school guys, like the not saying they're the same level of talent, but the Kirk Heinrichs and guys like that, where like they just sit there and listen and soak up all the knowledge, and you see him utilize it on the floor, and it's just like, oh man, where'd he learn that? It looked like LeBron a little bit, you know what I mean?
You're saying
like,
he's a real cerebral player, like a real
he's real cerebral.
He's a coach's son.
Fast.
He's sneaky athletic.
He's got sneaky.
Listen, we've all heard it, all of us.
Can we just start accepting what it is and just say he's white? He's white. He's white. We know what he is. No, I like Austin Reaves'
Walker
game.
Kessler disagrees with all the stereotypes.
I think that Austin Reaves is going to gain a lot just from learning the game and learning how different moves to utilize. So I don't know, man. Like nobody else on this team, to me, this is one of those teams that it's like at the end of every time we see these FIBA teams and stuff like that, it's like, what the heck did you guys just put together? And then they go win because Americans are still the best basketball players. Like the gap is closing. I don't deny it, but it's just every time we see this, it's just like, how'd Jaren Jackson get on that team? Like, all right, that's a thing. Hey, what's Brandon Ingram had no vacations planned this. What's Bobby Portis doing here?
Not hate for your boy Bobby. Come on.
I love Bobby. It's not hate, but it's just like every time we look at these teams, it's the most hodgepodge put together teams, and somehow Team USA is just like, we're better. We got it.
Team Canada may have something to say about that. Team Germany looked pretty good at times too in their game the other day. But coming up, let's play our favorite game every week. Count it up, where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including Podcast P. Klay Thompson had some things to say about that, and some Steph stuff. Talk about that coming up. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA. We've been talking about Team USA and FIBA. I want to change it now to talk about Podcast P, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, all that, and we can only do all those things in
Count It Up, Count It Up, Count It Up, Count It.
Where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. On Podcast P with Paul George, Klay Thompson was asked about the game where he looked at Devin Booker and he put up the 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers talking about his rings when Booker was just cooking him. Klay Thompson said, I was in my feelings, though. Book was busting my ass that day. Devin Booker then responded on Instagram and said, is that the answer you was looking for? Paul George said, I don't really care. That's Klay's answer. Sorry ass response, but I don't know what that's supposed to mean to me. My question is,
Count it up.
Do you believe Klay Thompson and are you buying his answer? And then what was Devin Booker talking about?
I believe Klay. I think that he probably went back and looked at that and he was like, that's a little cheesy. Because we all did. We were just
as soon as it happened, we're like, come on.
We were like, okay, yes, Klay, you have 4 rings. Yes, of course, your career is better than Devin Booker's right now. Like, nobody's arguing that. But you got cooked tonight. Like, you can't go 4 rings on a night where you literally didn't compete. I don't know if y'all remember that night. Please go back and watch it because after this happened, I went back and watched it. Klay stood 0 chance. Like, hand in the face, he literally tried to, it looked like he tried to stick a little foot on it. I'm not saying he did, but it looked like there was a little foot. Devin dodged it, still knocked down a 3. And the thing that Devin is, I guess, insinuating is that Paul George was trying to create controversy. And I don't think that he was. I think that he was just asking about Klay Thompson's trash talk because I don't know if people know this or not, but Klay Thompson talks trash. Shocking.
Wow.
Again, it's right up there with Jaren Jackson having 5 fouls. I'm just so surprised. Like I couldn't believe it when I heard it.
Also, that famous game where that famous GIF where Kobe does the 1, 2, 3, 4, like he does the 5. Like he was not playing that game. He was in street clothes. Like he was on the bench. He was not playing that game. He was just like saying that to somebody that was talking trash to him while he was not playing. So it's hard.
Wasn't it a fan as well?
I don't remember that exactly, but he wasn't playing in that game. And so like you can't just do it when you're getting destroyed that night. It's like a get out of jail free card. Like it just doesn't work like that.
That's like when guys use the shrug after like knocking down like 4 3-pointers. And it's like, all right, bud, well, like Michael Jordan wasn't taking 8 of them on a regular basis. Like you can't just throw the shrug out there.
Or that guy that was throwing quarters or throwing washers at the wall.
No. Hey, listen, you beat Michael Jordan in a competition on camera. No, you shrug.
It is prime too.
It is prime dime throwing.
Steph Curry. I got a couple of stories on Steph Curry here. He's been having a week. Steph Curry had a camp, and he said to his campers recently, quote, last thing we can do is try to get open, don't get the ball, and begging for the ball. I don't care where you are on the court. Every other decision is the right one. Screen away, front cut, back cut. Last thing we can do is beg. It's the weakest move in basketball.
Count it up.
He was talking about Jordan Poole, right? Right?
I didn't see that one coming. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't expecting the Poole string on this one. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not going to lie. Technically, you could talk about him talking about Kevin Durant because we saw that a couple of times with KD. You talk about Jordan Poole. For the ball. You could talk about any time Draymond just decided to bring the ball up and chuck it up. Like there's so many times that you could talk about with this Warriors team, but I didn't expect the Jordan Poole stray. That one caught me off guard. That was well done by you. 1,000 points, my good sir.
He's talking about Jordan Poole in this. I mean, you just think about somebody that doesn't do ton of stuff off the ball. He did, he was a few here and there, but just begging for the ball. Like all he does is with the ball in his hand. And so to me, he's talking about Jordan Poole.
Sure. I mean, like I feel like all of them do that at certain points. So he could be talking about any number of
Draymond
teammates.
Will say his name. Draymond will come out and talk about Jordan Poole in that way. So we don't have to.
Weird because like Klay Thompson was just like, we love Jordan. And I was like, I don't think y'all do. Like y'all watch this man get punched in the face, and everybody just kind of was like, hey, look at
that. The next one. I don't know if you saw this. Steph Curry got on stage with Paramore this week. It was screaming out misery business.
Count it up.
How'd he do?
I mean, listen, just like every mixed kid growing up in America at that time, he knew all the words. So you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, for sure. Well, you don't listen to Paramore and Lil Wayne in the same playlist?
Yeah, I definitely did in middle school. 100%. 100%. It was a Millie. It was misery business. It was.
Yeah, when you hear misery business and then like the Carter 3 on full blast, come on.
That's it. Like, you were living at that point, especially if your parents didn't know about it. That was where I was in my life.
On an MP3 player in secrecy where you've changed all the.
It was a Zune. It was an iPod Nano.
I was a Zune guy. I had the 64 gigabyte joint.
I remember I got an iPod Nano on the way to go see that King Kong movie with like Adrian Brody and Jack Black. And
you needed the iPod Nano to sleep through the first hour and a half.
Timberwolves star Anthony Edwards was fined $50,000 today for swinging a folding chair that struck two bystanders at the conclusion of Minnesota's season-ending playoff loss to the Denver Nuggets on April 25th.
Count it up.
Was this the most significant chair-related story this week?
Absolutely not. And I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like we can't praise the chair on one side and hate on the guy with the chair on the other.
Okay.
Oh, there's a lot of chair praise going on down in Alabama right now.
In Alabama, there's lots of chair praise going on.
There's tons of chair praise going on, man. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. You gotta give credit to the technique on that. I've been working on, just in case there's ever a hat toss in my vicinity, I've been working on my folding chair swing. I've got the overhand underneath sweep all ready to go, just in case anybody needs me. Give me a call, Ant-Man. I won't pay the fine.
Anthony Edwards, by the way, he just kind of like grabbed the chair and like threw it. Just like he just kind of like it wasn't even a throw. He just like had hold of the chair in frustration. He had just missed a potential game-winning shot. They got eliminated from the playoffs, and he kind of grabs the chair and then sort of lets go, but also still kind of runs forward, and so the chair flies forward and hits two people, which. Unfortunate. Cost him $50,000. And he won't be known as a legend for throwing the chair like the guy in Alabama will be.
Listen, I need you to take that 50 in NBA. You take that 50 grand, you match that 50 grand, and you bail that gentleman out.
Did he go to jail?
I think a lot of them went to jail. I don't know if he specifically went to jail. Now, I will say the second swing was unnecessary. That young lady was on the ground. She was already punched 7 times by the aunties that showed up. She didn't need to get hit with the chair swing.
She had been taken care of.
The overhand on the first guy, he was on point.
I was too busy watching Michael B. Phelps.
Hey, I love it, man. Listen, pick your nickname. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Amazing, so good. That's why Twitter can never die.
Twitter. And we will never. Here's the best part about whatever they're calling it now. This is Chicago. It's still the Sears Tower. It's not, but it always will be.
Well, and then you got the Staples Center. That will be the Staples Center. No one's calling that crypto. So, I mean, as humans, we tend to just call things.
I'm not gonna lie to you. As a Chicagoan, I forgot that was the name. I forgot. They just sold the rights to it. It's like it's the Staples Center.
Nope. Staples is an office supply store. They're not calling it. They have
I haven't bought a stapler in years.
They sell more than staplers.
Or ever.
Last story here. Mark Turmel, NBA Jam creator, said, quote, "I was unhappy with what happened to the Pistons, that my only way to make a difference was if the Bulls take a shot in NBA Jam to win or tie the score in the last 5 seconds, it throws up a brick. Automatically. There's an actual code that prevents them from winning against the Pistons." My question for the Locked On Bulls host.
Count it up.
On a scale of cool with it or you're infuriated by this, what are your thoughts on NBA Jam is rigged if the Pistons play the Bulls?
Is there a scale that gets me to hysterically laughing at this because you just couldn't take the fact that Michael Jordan was that much better?
Yeah, it's right in the middle, and it's as petty wop as you can get.
Because at the end of the day, I fit the criteria to be selected, but I was not chosen by the selection committee. I fit the criteria. I talked. I fit it. I don't know. It was Jordan. It was Magic. They all called me, but I fit the criteria to be selected.
So you don't care. Do you think that it's hilarious that he had to go to those lengths on NBA Jam?
I love it because that is sports fans in its essence, right? Like there's one thing that you'll never see me do, and that's hope that the Colts have any success at any point in their careers. Why? Because they beat the Bears in the 2006 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You'll never see me cheer for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You want to know why? Because nobody really wants to go to Cleveland. Joakim Noah said it best. We all know it. Like, why would anybody ever want to go there? Like, if you're gonna visit anywhere, check out. Never mind. It's all Ohio anyway. And then you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's just like the sports beefs run deep. I hate Detroit. I really do. I hate New York. I really do. Great places to visit. Well, you know. And then at the end of the day, it's sports. This is what we do. So I love the fact that he was so petty that the Bulls continuously beat them for years to come, that he had to write this code in.
He sat there on his computer, wherever it was, at whatever time it was, in the dark probably, and like, no one will know. till like 50 years later, and then I'll get them. Then they'll know.
I'll reveal it on a podcast. What's a podcast? Shut up.
I'm inventing that too.
I am inventing podcasts.
In the background, another coder goes, "He's on fire!" This man just invented a brand new video game and a way to listen to audio. Wow.
Oh, no, that's it. Somebody find me Joe Rogan. Who's Joe Rogan? I'll make him too. Wait a minute now.
Isn't that the Fear Factor guy? Not yet. He's not.
Not yet. He's not. We have to invent Fear Factor. Or is it Cash Cab? Different bald guy. Oh, my bad.
They'll eat bugs. It'll be nuts. There you go. Let us know in the comment section which FIBA Team USA player has the most to gain this offseason going into this season. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA.
Bye-bye.
Boom.